and their two children who are here in the area. Don't go so fast, Mike. Mike and Cindy, if you wouldn't mind just coming to the front. I'm sorry, this may take a while actually, but so Luke and Elizabeth are representing the children. Hannah and Rachel, of course, are in the States, university. Where would you like them? This way? Okay. Would you all mind just... Right. Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, we're looking at focusing in our message today on the church at Antioch, and we'll see there that Barnabas had his hands full with that church, and he realized he needed help, and so he sent for Saul, who later became Paul, for reinforcements. He knew he needed help, and he found the best man for the job. And in so many ways, I thought about that example over the years, because when I came here 10 years ago, there was a lot to do. And at the time, I was also traveling to Ukraine frequently. And so though ICP was a relatively small church, we had a lot of ministries, a lot of things going on, and I felt that I had a lot to do, not only to maintain things, but to build things. And so over my first 2 years of being here, I had a firm sense that I needed help. And there are two things that I really felt we needed. One was an associate pastor, somebody who was capable of serving alongside me to perform pastoral ministry, pastoral care, and be there when I was gone, as I was traveling. Secondly, somebody to lead the music and the worship ministry. Now, ICP had a great history of music and worship ministry, and things were going well, and we had some wonderful people who were providing leadership at that time. But I realized, ideally, we needed some continuity and somebody who could really focus and sink into that ministry. And God, in His grace and in His providence, at that time, raised up Mike Yurkovich and Cindy. At that time, they had been serving in Macedonia. They had been there for 8 years doing church planting, and but for various reasons, sensed that God was leading them out of Macedonia, but they didn't know where. So that was our need, and it was their need. They were looking for a place to land. One of our elders was actually the regional supervisor for Mike and Cindy's mission agency, Send International, and he was the one who made the connection. So to make a long story short, our need and their availability came together in God's grace and providence to bring them here. And all I can say is, one of the highlights of my time here for 10 years has been serving with Mike Yurkovich and getting to know Mike and Cindy and their children. It's been one of the greatest experiences of my life. Let me highlight two general things about Mike and about Cindy. First of all, the most important thing in any leader is character. Even secular companies say that. Character is number one. Secondly, competence. So the two words I would use to describe, in other words, the ability to get done what needs to be done. In terms of the church, I would summarize those in terms of gifting and godliness. In terms of gifting, Mike and Cindy are extremely gifted musically. Of course, Cindy was a concert pianist. Mike studied music in school. Is that not? Something like that. Okay, a little embellishment here. After that statement, everything else I say is 100% true. But incredibly gifted musically, and what we discovered, and I didn't really know this until Mike came, was he's an extremely gifted team leader. In other words, he's not only has the ability to do it himself, but he's able to take a group of people of various giftings and abilities and to be able to bring them together into a harmonious whole and lead them effectively. And of course, in our transient community, you have people coming and going all the time. You have people who are gone some weeks and here other weeks, and you can only imagine how challenging that would be. Mike has done a brilliant job of building a well-oiled worship team each week. And I remember one time, one of our council members, I think it was Joe Mrazek way back when, somebody asked, what would you like to see in our worship ministry? And he said, I'd love to see a big team up there in front, leading us in worship of different instruments and vocalists, leading us in worship every week. And I thought about that often since then. It's happened by God's grace. Mike has built that team. Really, it's almost unbelievable the way Mike has done that. And so he's not only technically gifted, but a wonderful team leader. Of course, he's a seminary graduate with credentials as a pastor, ministry skills, including evangelism and discipleship, leading Bible studies. All of that has been brought to bear over his 8 years here. But character is number one. Godliness is number one. Mike loves the Lord. He has a deep love for the Lord. And that's seen in all sorts of different ways, but I've seen him day in and day out and week in and week out for the last 8 years, and he's truly one of the godliest men that I've known in terms of his consistent walk with the Lord, his discipline, his conscientiousness, his hard work, his ability to recognize mistakes and shortcomings and to learn from them, to be open about them. And one of the things that we've tried to do here at ICP is to hold one another accountable as leaders. And so we share very openly about what's going on in our lives, sins and shortcomings. And Mike has been able to do that, and I've watched him grow over the years. And so, more than anything, Mike is a godly person. And we've seen the same thing with Cindy, not only her competence in ministry, but also her godliness too. And I should mention the kids as well. They've just been a wonderful contribution to our fellowship. Hannah and Rachel, who are now in the States, and now Luke and Elizabeth. The Youth Praha worship team, which is an incredible team. Much of that credit goes to the Yurkovich children for what they've done while they've been here. So I'd like to thank Mike for his partnership in ministry over these 8 years. It's been a privilege and one of the highlights for me. You're a good friend, and I'm going to miss you. And your whole family. Whenever people ask me about the Yurkoviches, I just say one thing. They're golden. They are pure gold. And we love you very much. And we'll miss you. Thank you.
No, that's not true. I rarely get nervous talking in public, right? I'm shaking. Why they don't bring more of these, I don't know. Looking at the worship team this morning, I kind of wonder, why did they ask me to represent the worship team? It's not because I am the most musically talented. There's an incredible group of musicians who come together. And Job was on it this morning, so it's not because I'm the oldest. Mike Yurkovich is much older than I am. Leslie Johnson. What? Okay. Leslie Johnson, who most of you know, is, I think, the longest standing member of the worship team. She's in the U.S. this morning. We emailed back and forth, neither of us wanting to write this tribute to God and to the Yurkoviches, because how do you do something like this in 2 minutes? I'm about to read what Leslie wrote, and as far as I'm concerned, she had the easier job. She didn't have to hold it together. And by the way, I'm not going to hold it together. She didn't have to hold it together while presenting this. Leslie wrote, how do we possibly say all that we want to in 2 minutes? Brilliant minds think alike. It's impossible, but she said we will try. She might try in the U.S. I don't know that I'll try. But when Mike and Cindy first arrived with their 4 kids, and this is Leslie writing, I remember feeling worried. Will this new guy think about music and worship the way that I do? Will I be allowed to stay on, or will I be a threat to him? What will happen? God was so kind to ICP in giving us Mike Yurkovich to take the worship ministry. He was immediately warm and supportive of all that had gone on before, willing to ask advice and what people were used to. Though he had strong ideas of what music and worship should be like, he was willing to listen to those around him. For this and much more, we thank the Lord. For the first while, she wasn't sure how many years, Cindy helped and played the synthesizer. We sometimes called her Cynthia. I didn't know that because I really would have taken off on that nickname had I known. Cindy also had language partners through Logos. She provided meals for the Logos students, especially at busy holiday times. Her continued support of Mike in the music ministry in Logos is steady and evident. And for that, we thank the Lord for Cindy. Jimena's up next. Got this for you. Okay. I remember the young Luke Yurkovich getting involved with his percussion. I don't know if you know Luke, but any available surface is a form of percussion. Luke added much to our team over the years for his willingness to help his dad out and being a great role model to the younger kids at church, and for his use of musical gift in serving the community through Youth Praha and the Witness. We thank the Lord. For an even younger Yurkovich, Elizabeth, aka Liz, it has been fun to see her grow in her abilities and confidence, as well as to see the Holy Spirit guiding her and writing some amazing worship music. For her willingness to come along and help her dad, and also serving our community through Youth Praha and the Witness, we thank the Lord. For many years, the Yurkovich family opened their home to practices week after week after week. Well, you get the idea. For the first few years, the music team was a small group of regular people. Boy, they must have gotten sick of seeing us week after week. Well, you get the idea again. Especially as we have had tenors who are great singers, but worthless in clapping. Her words, not mine. And it's not like she mentioned the names of Jeremy and Jimmy as well. And during that time, Mike was incredibly patient, and we'd get laughing about the silliest things, again, for which Mike was patient. And then we'd give Mike a hard time for, well, this and that, and Mike had to be patient. For all this, we thank the Lord. It's been a while, but we've also been blessed with the talents of the older two Yurkovich girls, Hannah and Rachel. I was privileged to see Hannah last week at Amy's wedding. She is a gifted musician too, and had contributed her piano talents to ICP worship team over the years. Rachel contributed her artistic talents to ICP worship through artwork given to the women's retreat a few years back. For these young ladies and their contribution to the Lord's work at ICP, we thank the Lord. This is where I interject. I promise I won't be too much longer. When parents make monumental decisions to move somewhere and serve the Lord, sometimes they don't consider the impact the children will have. Whether it be Youth Praha, or school, or through friendships, all four Yurkovich kids have had a tremendous impact, and we are grateful for that. I've had the privilege myself of being the Bible study leader of all three Yurkovich girls at some point. And as is true with Bible study leaders, if you're doing a good job, you learn a boatload of stuff from your girls. And I've learned a boatload of stuff from my girls. And I've been honored to have Luke in my house more than once, hanging out with my son. They will be missed. And kids do have a great impact. They have impacts on Americans, Brits, Macedonians, and many others. Wow, I've made it this far. Only one paragraph to go. Okay, we're gearing down. Okay, back to Leslie. There's indeed a lot more we could say, but alas, we do not have the time. Mike, Cindy, and the girls. Oops, I didn't. Mike, Cindy, Luke, and Elizabeth is what it says. We will all miss you very much. You each have contributed much to the health of this congregation and leading us in worship of our great God through music, hospitality, and many other ways. There will be a big hole at ICP when you leave. Thank you for all that you have done. May God bless you in the continuance of his kingdom. You did pretty well.
Try to follow up on that. I've been asked to say something about the Logos Center. I used to be a teacher last year, until Spanish teacher. I just want to share how I've been touched deeply by the whole family, Yurkovich's heart for reaching out to others.